Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Next Decision podcast. My name is Jarie Bolander, executive strategist over here at Decision Council, and I'm here again with Seymour Duncker, CEO of MindScale AI, and probably the smartest guy I know about AI. Maybe that's probably true. How's it going, Seymour?
Great, Jared. Nice to meet you again. It's always good to be, on the air with you. And
Yeah, I know.
I'm not so sure about the smartest, but quite
Well,
the
I mean,
contrary.
smartest guy I know for sure. What we wanted to do was we'd been on the show, or you'd been on the show a couple episodes ago, and one of the things that we kind of want to have as a recurring thing on the show is talking about AI. It just goes so fast, right? That I would love to hear some of the things that you're seeing nowadays. We're recording this in November of 2025. There has been a lot of talk of the AI bubble, or the bubble is about to burst. Not sure if that's the case, but what are you seeing out there? What are some of the things that we should pay attention to? And, frankly, is there an AI bubble?
Yeah, well, that's a big question, right? So, if you look at the stock market, one day it goes up, and the next day it goes a little bit down, and it's always because we we need more AI chips, and we need more AI compute. And the next day, ooh, maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here, right? So depends, right? So I think we are, definitely building up to something that feels like has always happened at the juncture of some great new paradigm, like when we had overcapacity in fiber, right before the whole internet wave took off, right? Are we getting now an overcapacity in AI compute? Well, not so sure, right? Not so sure about that, right? Are we seeing on the applications that are going through the roof, like co-pilot coding? Absolutely. Are we seeing enterprises using ChatGPT and Claude and Anthropic? Absolutely. Are we seeing a lot of AI applications that are already delivering the full value that is expected for AI? I'm not so sure about that, right? I hear and see a lot about enterprises still waiting for the complete, a kick in terms of AI productivity. So yeah, to be seen.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we sort of see some of that same stuff too. I think it really boils down to things need to be connected together. And I don't think things are really connected together very well. That's one thing I think is this sort of hiccup. Everyone's like, oh, this stuff's so great. But then you're like, well, your data silos and your systems, and some are on prem and off prem and in the cloud, and you don't have access to all the data. And then there's security. And so I think there's just this stall, for lack of a better word, of, hey, we actually fundamentally need to understand what we're trying to automate, which has been the way it's been for generations and decades. I mean, you mentioned the internet, back in the 2000s, which is shockingly over 25 years ago now. When we were building the internet with the capital I, it was the same problem: overcapacity. People weren't making money, and then there was this massive slump. And the companies that came out of that slump were the Googles and the Ciscos and all, I don't think Google was even there yet. It was like the Ciscos and all of these great companies. And I think we're going to see that in the next 6 to 9 months. But I'm just curious, how should people be thinking about this? Because there is a lot of thrash out there. There is, again, to your point, the stock market goes up, the stock market goes down. We've got an overglut, we've got an underglut. I think, or the one that I always see, people's jobs are being taken away from AI, and then, oh, we need to hire them back. So it seems like there's just a lot of thrash. What do you think are some of the fundamental things that we should just be thinking about as we sort of navigate? I do agree with you. it is, we're at the point now where
Mhm.
there will be some sort of inflection point for good or for ill pretty soon.
So what the whole hype around agentic and agents, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think is an
Mm-hmm.
interesting one. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's taking considerably longer to kick in and materialize um the real value, right? So I see a new term emerging, which is shallow agents and deep agents, right?
That's the first time I've heard that one.
Yeah,
Shallow and deep agents. Okay.
right. And shallow agents are, you know, what I always thought that the first wave of agents, were basically very simplistic LLM based application that do one prompt, one action, right? And um, and deep agents are more sophisticated type of applications that you know can do all of the promising things we're hoping agents can do, right? So as you know, I'm very deep into this field, so we've been working on deep agents at MindScale AI for quite some time for the medical field. So I fully appreciate the power of deep agents, but it'll take time and expertise to actually construct them, right? So the other day I had a simple requirement, right? So I just which was we we with this client we have a regular Google Meet, and we do the video recordings, which is great, a great application of AI, the transcription that is right. Now that only gets shared with the owner of the Google Meet, right? And there's no easy way of sharing that with an external party, which is a pretty nuisance because now you have to remember that the minute the transcription comes out, you now need to manually share this with the external party, right? So I wanted to spend exactly 3 minutes trying to automate that with with Zapier, right? With
Yep.
a
Yep.
Zap,
Yeah. With the zap.
and
Yep.
which is cool. In the beginning, you actually have a integrated chat that allows you to sort of like automate the steps. And well, after 3 minutes, I was halfway through and it still wasn't working. And it was definitely an improvement in terms of, I don't have to figure out the Zapier interface, and I'm getting the right things. Looks like it at least popped up, but it'll still take me probably 15 minutes to do, and I wanted to spend not more than 3 minutes because I can remember to share this. That's a minute. We probably have 10, 15 weeks into that project, so I don't need to spend 15 minutes figuring out Zapier. So I think that's exactly where we are right now, right? Things are not that simple as you would hope, right? I want to be able to describe, hey, integrate. This is what I want trying to achieve. Build me that integration, right? Create that Zap, and it's not there yet, right? So I think that's what we're seeing. So I think it's going to take some time, unsurprisingly, right? Until true agentic support is going to kick in. I think that's when we will see a significant productivity curve on on the business side, on the enterprise side, kicking in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was the other day working on a workflow in HubSpot, right? Everyone knows HubSpot, CRM, leader in the thing. And I go, oh, it says, how do you want to create your workflow? Do you want to do a template from scratch or do you want AI's help? And I'm like, well, of course I want AI's help. I don't want to have to do this. Like, why do I even have to sort this out? Right. And so I described what I wanted to it, and it got about 75% the way there. And it got like some of the things fundamentally wrong. Like, it got the wrong form to fill out. Like, so even though it was like, hey, you got me 75% the way there, I still had to like look through it, make sure it was correct. And it could have been the way I prompted it or whatever, but okay. It didn't. And I wanted to not spend more than like 5 minutes. I mean, why do I have to spend all this time to even do this? But had to do it. But, you know, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, a year ago, that never would have, I could never have even told it what I wanted to do. So it's, I think it's just a question of, like it's the learning curve, which is always steep. And, you sort of start to like, okay, how do I effectively use these tools? But I also think what's interesting now, and I don't know, I'd love your take on this, is we're starting to see, these next generation of models and these next, like the speed is starting to sort of taper off. I don't remember the last time like one of the open AI models, you're like, oh, great. The context window wasn't even that bigger and it wasn't even that faster. So what am I getting, And I'm just curious if we're seeing that saturation point that you sometimes do with technology, that you rapidly kind of like get up the technology curve. People need to catch up to learn it because it's hard to learn. You need to assimilate into it. And then all of a sudden, you start to kind of hit a plateau until you hit the next big spurt. I think we're in that plateau. And I don't think people can absorb this stuff fast enough. I think there's an absorption problem. And
Right.
that's the way it always was for anything, even SaaS adoption, internet adoption, any kind of adoption of technology. Is like, how fast can I absorb what this is? And curious if you're seeing that sort of thing too.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I would translate absorption into creating true, the true new capabilities, right? And so I think on the text side, LLM side, we're definitely seeing a plateau, right? So all the new models coming out, they are a marginal improvement on the prior version, right? And we're not seeing this major step up that we saw, let's say, 2 years to a year ago versus a year ago to now, right? And I think that's very true on the LLM side, right? And I think on the LLM side of things, it's all about we've got the basic ingredients, right? We've got great models that are now, prices are coming down, context windows are at a more context windows actually not helpful. I think actually you get degradation with more context window. It's all about a new term. We're moving from prompt engineering to context engineering, right? Right. And because it's how do I now engineer this new capability into a product that delivers value. I think that's where we have the absorption issue, because, and I 100% agree with you. I think there's an absorption issue. It's kind of like now we need to translate this into actual whole range of new products that I have absolutely no doubt will come. But it just takes time till you've figured out what the end-to-end pipeline is that you need to build. And wherein the LLM and the AI magic is only one component. It's a critical component. It's like now I've moved from combustion engines to electrical engines, but now I need to build the entire thing around it. Car designs change. I need charging stations. I mean, I need the whole thing to actually deliver the value of this new technology. I think that is true for the LLM space. I think we are still seeing that step up curve on video, right? So on video generation, right? So I think that's where we are suddenly like still in this like significant upward step. I think an exciting development is seeing what can we do with reasoning on the video space, right? Just to so the just to pause on this term reasoning, right? So that was the key step on the large language model that happened after the initial ChatGPT versions came out, and initially we focused on getting larger context window, reducing cost, increasing speed, and then basically reasoning capabilities were added, i.e., the model capability to actually reflect on what they're doing and improve in that, right? So that made that unlocked the true power of on the LLM side, right? And that's still happening. That's still early stages on the video side. So I think, in summary, I think on the video side, we're still seeing a significant step up, not so much on the LLM side.
Yeah, no, it's a great point because you sort of see, um, like I was trying to build something, like, hey, I'm going to build with one of these tools, like maybe Lovable or anything else, where, hey, I have this vision of what I want, and then I have to really, and to your point, context it into existence, or rather, write what I want. So I need to explain to the thing, to the machine, what I want. And traditionally, that used to be back in the day, we would have a market requirements document or a product requirements document where people would detail what you wanted. And then software engineering became, sorry for my software engineering folks, they became lazy. Something called Agile happened. And now it was like every week is just a brand new release. And you really didn't have to define it because you were rapidly evolving it. You're like, I don't need to define this. I'm just going to build stuff, see what sticks. I think we're back to having to properly define it. I think we're back to having to really understand the problem that you need to solve, and then telling the machine exactly what you want to do. Because, these little tools that I build, like, it is extremely frustrating because I think I'm explaining the thing correctly and it goes off the rails. And you're like, okay, how do I get it back on the rails? Right. And even when we were doing a video a couple of months ago, and we wanted to do a scene in the video, which was a pretty sensitive topic, and it's the perfect thing for AI to like generate the scene, right? And it was the reason why that particular video scene actually worked was because of the description of how well we described it, how well we told it what to do. Not just, I want this thing, but the context, to your point, the context engineering, or the context of what to do, explaining the rules, why it needed to look this way, how to make it work. And it took, several iterations, but the people we showed it to couldn't tell it was AI. We had to tell them that this particular scene, yes, was generated, and they're like, wow, I can't even really tell. And so, to your point, yes, video I think is getting there. I do think LLMs are plateauing. I don't like it's, I don't get much out of additional models in terms of generative. It's interesting about the context window. I find that fascinating because I do think you need to narrow down. Like, I think you're going to need to be more specific on what you want, and the people that can really document and write a narrative of what they want are going to be the ones that are going to be more successful on context engineering. And I'm just curious. I know one of the things that you've been building for the healthcare industry, the last time we talked about it, which was in January of this year, you had something like 90 prompts or 90 points in the workflow just to make sure it didn't screw up. And I'm just curious, how's that evolved? Is it still that complex, or because of all these, these advances in LLM, has it been reduced? I mean, how are you starting to see that evolution?
Yeah. And so, no, it has not introduced, and I don't expect the LLM any significant advancements in the core models themselves to help to reduce that. And I think that's sort of like the realization phase we're going through is that all the magic is in the LLM, right? So just imagine, like, there's going to be a more powerful LLM coming that can do everything else. No, that's not how it works. Okay. And for a complex application, you will require a lot of micro steps and scaffolding to get from a existing input to a desired output, right? And again, what the LLM does, it allows you to do virtual decision making on your behalf, but you have to scaffold that decision making. So do you make sure that you get a repeatable scenario? You don't want randomness in your process, right? And so that scaffolding is really very important. Let me actually draw an example in a very different application area, which is coding, right? So and that ties also to what you just said in terms of, what's the right mix between formulating requirements and actually, understanding what's going on under the hood, right? And so right now, the one area that is transformative is all these co-piloting capabilities of the LLMs in code generation. And so really, really big, numbers are being generated on the revenue side for all companies that are providing co-piloting software, because that is ready for prime time. Now, as from a user perspective, this is actually super interesting. And I did an experiment this summer, right? So, and I think I'm going to introduce. So, I think there are two terms when you use code generation that I'm going to use moving forward. Which one is co-piloting, right? And then the one that's actually become super popular is code vibing,
Vibing, yeah.
right?
Vibe coding, yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, you don't have to really understand CS anymore. You just basically vibe your way through, which I think, I don't actually exactly know what code vibing means. I think it actually, you just tell the machine what it does and it magically does it, right? So I did an experiment this summer. So we heavily use code generation in our own application scenario. I would say like 60% of the code is generated, not
Oh,
written
wow.
anymore, right?
Okay.
And I would absolutely require every single person to be able to be versatile, how to use these tools, because it's a 10x productivity increase.
Oh,
But
yeah, for sure.
you really need to understand what's going on under the curve. So we, in our scenario, in our core application scenario, understand every line of code that goes into our application. We review every line of code. So we have high fidelity, high confidence in terms of what's going on in our own application under the hood. Okay. I had this side project, some tax related thing I needed to do. If anybody ever has a interest in a foreign partnership, you are required to fill out a monster of a form called the 8865 form, right?
Oh, okay.
So I decided
8865.
8865, because that comes along with the 8825 and the 44, I think 65, and it comes along like with all. So it is a monster, right? So I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to try true code vibing, and I'm going to treat the LLM or the code generation process a black box. I'm just going to say, these are my requirements, output, input, and this is what I'm expecting. You generate the code. I'm not going to review the code, right? And we're going to go through cycles of code generation, right? Now, that was an extremely frustrating process, because these models, have personalities, right? It's oh my god, they have actual personalities. Some talk too much, some jump into action before they think, right? Some basically make up stuff, right? So they basically making up stuff in code means go down a rabbit hole that you don't, that's actually like, is it a road to nowhere, right? So and they can be like super lazy. Super lazy in a coding term means I have a problem that I'm trying to solve, and now it's not quite working as I expected. Now I can, if I get lazy, I just basically patch and patch and patch. It's kind of like, you have this wall in your home, and you just keep pasting over it, right? You've got like a gazillion holes from prior like nails and whatever, and just. And suddenly this wall doesn't work anymore, right? It does not work.
Or it looks like this monster, like,
exactly.
What the hell just happened to that?
Yeah. And so that's what happens with these models, right? They basically patch up, and if you don't catch them patching up, you end up with this monster. And the only way you catch them patching up is by actually reviewing their output, right? So you have to it is a superpower, but you have to you becoming the input and the output manager, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you need to know, and the AI is managing the middle piece, right? And you quality assure at what gets out, and you send things back that are that are not that what you want it to produce. But it does
Right.
require you to understand you understand like what's going on. So I would say the state where we are today, right, is that you can code vibe simple apps, right? A simple app would be potentially like a web page, right?
Yep.
Or a simple database application, right? The
Yep.
minute it gets more complex, you need to be a product manager with deep CS knowledge so
Mm-hmm.
that you understand what's going on to basically manage the power of these like 6-horse carriage that you have, right? Otherwise, this thing will go all over the place,
Oh
right?
no, no. I mean,
Yeah,
I always say you need to know what good is.
right.
My whole thing, even with text, right? So I'm a writer. I've written a bunch of books. That's all I do all day is write. And using the tools to help you write is one thing, which is great. But you have to know what good is, and the only way to know what good is through experience. So if you're looking at a piece of content that comes out and you're like, "God, this just doesn't sound right," it's up to you to be like, no, that's not good. I need to refine it. I need to do more. In my experience with vibe coding, right, when I build all these little tools, mostly they're Python scripts for data analysis, you're 100% right. It'll generate some Python code, 600 lines long. It'll go down the wrong rabbit hole. I'll say, let's redo this. It then gives me 200 lines of Python code that does exactly the same thing. And I'm like, what just happened, right? And of course, yeah, incrementally and anything. But I do know a little bit about Python coding, so I do understand like what it's doing. But what is super interesting is defining the problem seems to be the hardest part. What problem am I trying to solve? Therefore, I can then instruct what I just like literally call my assistant to do that. Now that's more vibe coding. I've never done Copilot coding. I actually want to think through that because I used to code a lot of just general tools and stuff. But it's interesting because that use case, helping programmers and computer scientists and dev people be more successful faster and not have, because one of the problems I always had was like, how do I do this in Python? Where it's like it just shows me and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Now of course you lose some of the experience and you lose some of the personalization, but oh my god, it's so much easier to explain what I want to do than look through it and go, yeah, that's the right output, that's the wrong output, architect it this way, here's what I want it to do, as opposed to, god, I don't remember how to load a CSV file in Python. I know it's part of like I know there's a way to do it. Or the best one that I always run into is pandas, like Python pandas. Like, okay, how do I do this? Right. So yeah, I think, yeah, you have to know what good is. And that I think is fundamental. And maybe that's part of what we're seeing is these tools have been, championed as like anyone can do anything, yet no, they sometimes go off the rails. They sometimes don't produce what you want to. You need to know what good is. And if you've never done the actual work, how are you going to know what good is? Yeah. You know what I mean?
100%. And even that I think will face its own degree of automation, right? So because what all like this requirements formulation, that's we have to get really good on managing the input side, because as it is always garbage in, garbage out, right? So getting the requirements specified to a level that it becomes clearly actionable for an LLM to produce good output is sort of like one part of the equation, right? I think where we're going through right now is like, okay, now we have to also start understanding how to manage the output, right? So you can construct something what I call judges, right? Right? Right. So you basically, we're starting to use this in quality assurance, right? So how do you know for example, you're doing a transcription of a document, a clinical document, right? How do you know that the transcription of that document, it's a simple, OpenAI prompt, for example, that basically you have an image, you transcribe it. That's the simple task today. But how do you know that this transcription is accurate, right? And these LLMs will make micro mistakes, right? A number will be twisted or left out, right? So you can't rely on that, right? So now what you have to do is you have to introduce a judge on the other side saying, okay, I'm going to have three judges, right? A judge in this case is a counter LLM call. Three judges that basically each of them look at the transcript and compare it to the original image and say, is it accurate, right? And now you decide, okay, if two of the three agree, right, then it's a good. Then we accept that. You could have a very high standard and say, okay, all three need to agree, right? And so that's just one method of many methods of how to solve that problem. But now you're constructing a more sophisticated pipeline that's helping you to ensure quality output, right? And so these kind of all applications will require such kind of capabilities if you're using LLMs as part of your process. And I think that's the realization we are going through, is in order to ensure quality, I need methods to ensure quality. And before I can't ensure quality, I can't really 100% use this in production.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of it too. Maybe the sort of newness shine's wearing off, and now people are like, oh, look, this can sometimes be between 10 and 40% wrong depending on the process, which means now I need guardrails, which now I need to think through this more, and which now means I need judges to figure out, what do they agree? I mean, this control system theory, again, we can geek out on that. If it was a mission critical thing, there was redundant systems that would literally be like, they would vote, yeah, this and that, especially on, things that were super real time, like airplanes and missiles. Like you needed to, or like the thing's going to literally go off the rails, right? Literally, figuratively, like, oh, it's going to go into the ocean. So interesting. So yeah. So what, the name of the show is The Next Decision. So what are some of the next decisions people need to make on this, Seymour? Like what are the things that, are the thought process so that you can either absorb all this new technology, right? Or how am I going to deploy this? So what are some of those next decisions they should make?
Yeah, I think it always starts with skills, right? So you need to upskill. You need to upskill. You need to understand how to use, how to actually turn these into production grade systems that you can trust, right? It might not be a missile, but you can't,
or a rocket or whatever,
or a rocket, right? But small errors multiply.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So how do you do this, right? And how do you actually deploy this thing? So it all boils down to deeply understanding how these systems do work under the hood. How do you now build them into production grade solutions, right? And that means both upskilling internally, right? But also, bringing the right expertise in, right? Because the reality is very few people who have done, things the traditional way are ready to understand like how to do things the new way, right?
Yeah, it's so true.
So I think getting the right skill set in, and I think even in this how to formulate, like that's a whole, how to formulate prompts, how to manage the output, that's a whole new category of skills, right? And so I think that's the single most important decision, how to upskill and how to think about this thing, right? Don't expect, I think we hopefully are getting off this, okay, magic
Yeah, the
is
magic. Yeah.
happening right
Yeah.
now. The hard work starts, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
throw, the tears, the tears of the long journey
Oh
were
yeah.
theirs,
Oh
right?
my
So,
gosh.
so
Oh
I think
yeah.
that's there. So,
Yeah.
um,
No, that's great. No, I would say the same thing. I think it's the upscaling. So the decisions that you need to make are, what skill sets are you going to train your team or hire for? The one I think is the most important is having clear, concise communication and being able to really define problems. So I think if you're a writer, you're a creator, you're a content person, even though content is being created by AI and a lot of it's really good, defining the systems and processes that you need to build will be the new super skill. I cannot see getting it out of that, because if you don't really truly understand the problem you're solving, this thing's going to go off the rails in so many different ways. And again, we see that all the time, and we're trying to build that skill set here within Decision Council as well, just because it's it's important to clearly define the problem so that then we can then tell the machines, the robot, the AI, how to then solve the problem. So Seymour, man, I really appreciate it. It's great as always to hear your thoughts, and I'm sure everyone loved the discussion. It's such a great and new and emerging thing. And gosh, what we talked about not even 4 or 5 months ago has now changed. So thanks for being on the show.
Jarie, it's always great to talk to you. Like, it's such a great discussion. So looking forward to the next time.
I appreciate that. And thanks everyone for tuning in to The Next Decision. We hope that you will continue to listen, tell all your friends, leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast casting thingamajiggy, whatever that may be. And we will see you next time.